One of history's most widespread misconceptions is that Emperor Constantine gathered bishops at Nicaea, and they voted on what books would be included in the Bible. It's an appealing story. One dramatic meeting. One emperor. One decision. The truth is far more interesting. No single person created the Bible. No single council assembled it overnight. Instead, the Bible emerged gradually over hundreds of years as Jewish communities preserved sacred writings, Christian churches copied apostolic letters, and generations of believers recognized which books faithfully represented their faith. Today we're tracing that remarkable journey. Long before Christianity existed, the Jewish people already possessed sacred scripture. These writings became what Christians now call the Old Testament. The Hebrew Bible developed over centuries. It consists of three major sections: the Torah, or law, the prophets, the writings. These books were copied meticulously by Jewish scribes. Generation after generation preserved these texts because they believed they contained God's covenant with Israel. When Jesus taught in first-century Judea, these scriptures already existed. He quoted them frequently. So did the apostles. Christianity inherited scripture before it ever began writing its own. As Greek became the dominant language of the Eastern Mediterranean after the conquests of Alexander the Great, many Jews no longer spoke Hebrew fluently. A Greek translation became necessary. That translation is known as the Septuagint. Tradition holds that around 70 translators produced it, giving rise to its name. Whether the legend is literal isn't the important part. What matters is its enormous influence. By the time Christianity emerged, the Septuagint had become the Bible of much of the Jewish diaspora. When New Testament authors quoted scripture, they often quoted the Septuagint rather than the Hebrew text. Its influence continues today, especially within the Orthodox churches. Unlike the Old Testament, the New Testament wasn't written all at once. The earliest Christian writings were Paul's letters. These were practical correspondence addressing churches across the Roman Empire. The four Gospels followed over the following decades. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Acts documented the growth of the early church. Other letters addressed theology, leadership, and encouragement. Finally came Revelation. Each document circulated independently. There was no New Testament yet, just individual writings copied by hand and shared between churches. Imagine being part of a Christian congregation in the year 120. There are no printed Bibles, no bookstores, no internet. If your church received a letter from Paul, it would be copied by hand. Copies might then be sent to neighboring congregations. Churches exchanged these writings across the Roman road network. Gradually, certain books gained universal respect, others remained regional, still others were questioned. This wasn't chaos. It was a natural process of recognition. The churches weren't creating scripture. They were discerning which writings had apostolic authority. The word canon comes from a Greek word meaning rule or measuring rod. A biblical canon is simply the list of books recognized as scripture. Church leaders didn't flip a coin. Nor did they simply vote on personal favorites. Instead, several important questions guided the process. Did the writing come from an apostle or someone closely connected to one? Did it agree with teachings already accepted throughout the churches? Was it read publicly across many Christian communities? Had generations of believers recognized its authority? Books meeting these standards gradually became universally accepted. Others faded away. One milestone occurred in the year 367 CE. Bishop Athanasius of Alexandria wrote his annual Easter letter. Within it appeared something remarkable: a complete list of the 27 books recognized today as the New Testament, Matthew through Revelation, exactly the collection found in most Christian Bibles today. This wasn't creating the canon. It reflected what many churches had already come to recognize. His letter helped solidify an emerging consensus throughout much of Christianity. Several decades later, bishops met in North Africa. The Council of Hippo in 393 CE. Then the Councils of Carthage. These gatherings listed the books accepted for reading in churches. Notice the wording carefully. They were recognizing, not inventing. By this point, most Christian communities already agreed on the vast majority of New Testament books. The councils formalized that growing consensus. This is very different from the popular myth that one dramatic council secretly selected the Bible. Although Christians share the same 27 New Testament books, differences remain in the Old Testament. The Catholic Church includes several books often called the deuterocanonical books. Many Orthodox churches include even more writings preserved through the Septuagint tradition. Most Protestant churches follow the Hebrew canon for the Old Testament. These differences developed over many centuries and reflect different historical traditions. Importantly, all three traditions agree on the New Testament. That remarkable agreement reflects centuries of shared history before later divisions emerged. The story of the Bible isn't one of sudden invention. It's the story of preservation, transmission, discernment, and remarkable continuity. Jewish communities preserved their sacred writings for centuries before Christianity existed. The first Christians wrote new documents as eyewitnesses and apostles carried the message throughout the Roman Empire. Churches copied those writings, shared them across continents, and gradually recognized which carried apostolic authority. Later councils affirmed what had already become widely accepted. The Bible, as we know it today, emerged through generations of faithful transmission rather than a single moment of political decision. In our next episode, we'll turn to another enduring question. How did the Roman Empire survive after the fall of Rome? We'll follow the story eastward to Constantinople, where the Roman Empire continued for another 1,000 years, reshaping Christianity, law, and the medieval world.